The doors to the courtroom slam shut, and everyone looks at Kody as he takes the stand. Today, the family secrets they've kept hidden for years are about to come out in court, and someone is going to lose everything. You don't know this story until the truth comes out in court. Stay with me, and at the end, tell me who you think is really telling the truth. The air in the courtroom feels heavier than it should, as if something unspoken is weighing down on everyone at once. Kody sits up straight in his chair, his jaw tight and his fingers tapping on the wooden armrest. Janelle doesn't look at him at all. Instead, she stares straight ahead, as if looking at him might break the little bit of control she still has. Christine leans forward a little, her eyes sharp, as if she wants him to look at her. And Robyn seems nervous, not just upset, but also anxious. You know something might come out that you can't take back, and that's why you're nervous. The judge calls the room to order in a calm but firm voice that cuts through the tension like a knife. There is a lot of noise in the papers. In the back, someone coughs. And then it starts. It's not just about money or property, it's also about control, betrayal, and years of unspoken anger finally coming to light. Coyote Pass is at the center of it all. It was supposed to bring them together, but it ended up being the thing that drove them apart. Janelle's lawyer stands up, fixes his tie, and walks slowly to the center. He doesn't hurry. He knows that every second makes things worse. Kody Brown, he starts, his voice steady. Isn't it true that everyone involved didn't agree on the financial decisions about Coyote Pass? Kody moves a little. He quickly says, no. Too fast. Christine lets out a sharp breath, almost like a soft laugh, but it's not funny. The lawyer doesn't respond right away. He lets the silence hang for a while, letting Kody's answer sink in. Then he gets closer. So you're saying that every wife had an equal voice? Kody is unsure. Only for a moment. But it's enough. Well, we talked about things as a family. Janelle finally turns her head and her face gets tense. That's not what happened, she says under her breath, but it's loud enough for the microphone to pick it up. The courtroom is buzzing. The judge raises an eyebrow. Mrs. Brown, it's your turn, but the harm has already been done. Robyn moves in her seat and tightly holds her hands together. Her eyes dart to Kody, silently asking for something, support, reassurance, or even a warning. The lawyer sees. Let's talk about who owns what, he says next. Can you explain why some parts of the land were given to different people, especially in ways that helped Robyn? The question hits like a bomb. Kody stands up straight. That's not true. But his voice doesn't sound as sure of itself as it did a moment ago. Christine is now leaning back with her arms crossed and watching him closely. She isn't shocked. Not anymore. Janelle, on the other hand, looks hurt. The lawyer takes out a piece of paper and holds it up so the judge can see it. He says, "These are signed records," showing changes made without full consent. Kody's face changes. Just a little bit, but that's enough. Robyn's breathing gets faster. Mary, who has been sitting quietly at the end, finally looks up. Her face is blank, as if she has been waiting for this moment longer than anyone else. Kody, the lawyer presses, "Did you put one household ahead of the others or not? Be quiet." This time, there is real silence. Even the judge doesn't interrupt. The courtroom feels colder now, even though nothing has changed physically, as if the weight of what was just said has shifted the entire atmosphere into something sharper, more dangerous, and Kody can feel it pressing against him while Janelle's attorney slowly walks back to the table. Deliberately calm, almost too calm, like he knows exactly what comes next and is simply choosing the right moment to strike, while Robyn keeps dabbing at her eyes, trying to maintain composure but failing to hide the tension in her clenched jaw, and Christine watches everything with a stillness. That feels almost calculated, like she has already accepted whatever truth is about to come out, and the judge nods for the questioning to continue, her expression neutral, but her eyes alert, fully aware that this is no longer just a financial dispute, but something much deeper, something far more personal, and when the attorney turns back toward Kody, there's a subtle shift in his tone, softer on the surface, but carrying an edge underneath it, and he begins again asking about bank transfers, about dates, about signatures, about decisions that were made quietly, behind closed doors. Decisions that now refuse to stay hidden, and Kody answers each question carefully, choosing his words like stepping stones across a river he knows could pull him under at any second. But then, the attorney introduces a timeline, laying it out piece by piece, showing how funds moved, how property allocations shifted, and how one household consistently ended up more secure than the others, and this time Kody doesn't interrupt, he just listens. His face tightening as each detail is placed on record, and Janelle's expression changes slowly from controlled to visibly emotional, her eyes glistening not just with anger, but with something deeper, something that feels like betrayal layered over years of trust, while Mary sits completely still, her hands folded in her lap, watching in silence like someone who has seen all of this coming long before anyone else was willing to admit it. And then the attorney asks a question that seems simple but lands with devastating force, asking Kody why Janelle was left in a financially unstable position while others were not, and the pause that follows stretches just a little too long, long enough for everyone in the room to notice, long. Enough for the silence itself to become an answer, and when Kody finally speaks, his voice is lower now, less certain, saying that circumstances were complicated, that decisions had to be made quickly, that not everyone agreed all the time, but even as he says it, it sounds incomplete, like a version of the truth that's missing its most important pieces, and Janelle exhales sharply, shaking her head as if she can't believe she's hearing this reduced to something so small, so dismissive, and she finally speaks again, her voice steady, but filled with emotion as she says that she trusted him, that she believed in the family structure, that she sacrificed stability because she thought they were building something together, and the courtroom goes completely still as her words hang in the air, raw and unfiltered, and Kody looks at her then. Really looks at her. And for a brief moment, there's something in his expression that almost resembles regret, but it disappears just as quickly as it came, replaced by defensiveness, by the need to justify, to explain, to maintain control of a narrative that is slipping further away with every passing second, and Robyn shifts in her seat. Again, her discomfort growing more visible as the focus edges closer to her role in all of this, her eyes darting between Kody and the attorney as if trying to anticipate what will come next. And then it happens. The attorney turns directly toward her, asking if she was aware of the financial disparities, if she questioned them, if she ever raised concerns, and the question catches her off guard, her breath hitching slightly before she answers, saying that she trusted Kody to make the right decisions, that she believed he was acting in the best interest of the family, but her voice trembles just enough to suggest uncertainty, and Christine lets out a quiet, almost disbelieving laugh, shaking her head as she mutters that trusting him was exactly the problem, and the tension spikes again, sharp and immediate. And the judge has to step in once more, reminding everyone to remain composed, but the emotional undercurrent is impossible to ignore now. It's everywhere. In every glance, every breath, every word that feels heavier than the last, and the attorney doesn't slow down, he presses further, bringing up specific instances where decisions were made without group discussion, moments where promises were made and then quietly broken, and each example feels like another piece of a puzzle falling into place, forming a picture that no one can deny anymore, and Kody's responses grow shorter, more guarded, his earlier confidence replaced by something closer to frustration, maybe even desperation, and Janelle finally looks at him again. Really looks at him, her expression no longer just hurt but resolute, like she has reached a point where there is no going back, no more benefit of the doubt, no more waiting for things to change, and the courtroom feels like it's holding its breath as the attorney prepares to introduce one final piece of evidence, something he has clearly been saving for the right moment, and when he places the document on the table, sliding it forward with deliberate care, there's a noticeable shift in the room. A sense that whatever is written there is going to change everything, and Kody sees it too. His posture stiffening, his eyes narrowing as he leans forward slightly, and for the first time since this session began, there's genuine concern on his face, the kind that can't be hidden or explained away, and Robyn notices it immediately, her own expression tightening as she realizes that this is something even she might not fully understand, and the attorney begins to speak again. His voice steady, but carrying a weight that signals the importance of what he's about to reveal, and he explains that this document outlines a private agreement, one that was never disclosed to the rest of the family, one that directly impacts the ownership and control of the property in question, and the moment those words are spoken, the entire courtroom shifts, the tension snapping into something almost electric. And Janelle's eyes widen slightly, Christine leans forward, Mary finally uncrosses her hands, and Kody just stares at the paper like it's something he wishes he could make disappear. And in that moment, it becomes clear to everyone that whatever is written there isn't just important, it's explosive. The kind of revelation that doesn't just complicate things, it shatters them completely, and as the attorney prepares to read it aloud, the silence in the room becomes almost unbearable. Thick with anticipation, with dread, with the undeniable sense that once this is out, there will be no turning back, no rewriting the story, no repairing what's about to break, and just before the words leave his mouth, just before the truth is fully exposed, the tension reaches its peak, hanging there for a single fragile second that feels like it could last forever because what's written in that document isn't just evidence, it's the moment that could destroy everything they once called a family. Kody stares at Robyn. Then, back to the lawyer. I did what I thought was best for the family. Christine shakes her head right away. No, she says more loudly this time, you did what was best for her. People gasp all over the room. Robyn's eyes fill with tears right away. That's not fair, she says softly. Janelle finally speaks up. Her voice is steady, but it is full of emotion. It's fair. It's true. The judge leans forward now, clearly feeling the change in mood. Order, she says firmly. We will move forward with facts. But facts are what everyone is scared of. Facts don't just tell stories, they show them. The lawyer nods and turns to a new page. Let's talk about how money has been distributed over the past 5 years. Kody slowly exhales and rubs his forehead. This is when it gets worse. Everyone can sense it. Even the people in the back rows lean forward a little, drawn in by the weight of what is happening. This isn't just testimony anymore. It's a confession waiting to happen. And Kody knows it. The second the attorney begins to read from the document, the entire courtroom seems to shrink, like the walls themselves are closing in to hear every single word, and Kody's face tightens in a way that immediately tells everyone this is not something he wanted revealed. Not here, not like this. And certainly not in front of all of them. While Janelle leans forward just slightly, her eyes locked on the paper as if she can will the truth out faster, and Christine's posture sharpens, her focus unbreakable now, sensing that this is the moment everything has been building toward, and Robyn. Robyn looks frozen, her hands still clasped together but trembling now, her breathing shallow as the attorney's voice cuts cleanly through the silence, explaining that the document outlines a separate financial agreement made solely between Kody and Robyn, an agreement that grants specific control over portions of the property in a way that bypasses the shared structure they had all publicly committed to, and the words hit like a shockwave, rippling through the room as murmurs begin to rise before the judge quickly calls for order again, but even she can't completely suppress the reaction. Because this isn't just unexpected, It's devastating, and Kody immediately shifts in his seat, shaking his head as if to reject the implication before it fully forms, saying it's being taken out of context, that it was never meant to exclude anyone, that it was simply a temporary arrangement. During a complicated time, but even as he speaks, his voice lacks conviction, like he knows the explanation isn't going to hold under the weight of what's written in black and white. And Janelle's expression changes completely now, the hurt giving way to something sharper, something colder, as she finally speaks again, her voice steady but carrying years of suppressed frustration as she asks him directly why this was never shared, why she had to struggle financially while decisions like this were being made behind closed doors, and the question hangs there, heavier than anything that's come before it. Because it doesn't just demand an answer, it demands accountability. And Kody hesitates again, longer this time, his eyes flicking briefly toward Robyn as if searching for support or confirmation, but Robyn doesn't move, she doesn't speak, she just sits there, caught between fear and something that looks dangerously close to realization, like she's beginning to understand how all of this looks from the outside, how it sounds when spoken out loud, and Christine lets out a quiet breath, shaking her head again, but this time there's no disbelief in it, just a kind of tired acceptance, like she's finally seeing proof of what she's known all along, and Mary, who has remained silent for so long, finally shifts in her seat, her gaze steady and piercing as she watches Kody with an intensity that suggests she's reevaluating everything in real time. Every decision, every moment, every justification that once made sense but now feels hollow under the weight of this revelation. And the attorney continues, reading specific clauses that outline financial protections and ownership advantages that clearly favor Robyn's household, detailing how funds were redirected and how authority over key decisions was concentrated, and with every line, the narrative Kody has tried to maintain begins to fracture more visibly, the image of unity and fairness dissolving into something far more uneven, far more calculated, and Janelle's composure finally cracks just slightly. Her voice tightening as she asks again, more forcefully this time, whether he ever intended to tell them, whether this was always the plan, and Kody exhales sharply, running a hand through his hair as he tries to regain control, insisting that it wasn't about favoritism, that it was about stability, about protecting the family in uncertain times, but the words sound rehearsed now, disconnected from the reality unfolding in front of everyone, and Robyn suddenly speaks. Her voice soft but urgent as she says she didn't fully understand the implications, that she trusted Kody's judgment, that she never wanted to hurt anyone, and there's a genuine emotion in her tone that makes the moment even more complicated, because it doesn't feel like a lie. It feels like someone caught in the middle of something they didn't entirely question until it was too late. And Christine responds almost immediately, her voice calm but cutting as she says that not questioning it is exactly how this happened, that silence can be just as damaging as intention. And the tension spikes again, sharp and immediate, as the courtroom becomes less about legal arguments and more about emotional truths that can't be ignored any longer, and the judge watches closely, allowing the exchange to continue just enough to let the reality of the situation settle in, because even she can see that this isn't just about resolving a dispute, it's about uncovering a pattern. And Kody finally leans forward, his voice rising slightly as he tries to push back, saying that everything he did was for the family, that he carried the burden of making difficult decisions, that no one else understood the pressure he was under, and for a brief moment, there's a flicker of something almost sympathetic in the room, because leadership does come with weight, with responsibility, with choices that aren't always easy. But that flicker disappears just as quickly when Janelle responds, her voice steady and unyielding as she says that leadership doesn't mean secrecy, that responsibility doesn't mean exclusion, and that trust, once broken like this, doesn't come back just because you say it was for the greater good. And the words land with undeniable force, cutting through every defense Kody tries to build, and the courtroom falls into a heavy silence again. one that feels. Different this time, less chaotic and more final, like something important has just been acknowledged that can't be undone, and the attorney steps back slightly, allowing the weight of the moment to settle before delivering one final point, explaining that this document not only reveals unequal control, but also contradicts previous statements made under oath, and that implication alone shifts everything from emotional conflict into potential legal consequence, and Kody's expression changes instantly, the realization hitting him hard as he understands the gravity of what's being suggested. That this is no longer just about defending his choices, but about explaining inconsistencies that could carry real consequences beyond this courtroom. And Robyn's eyes widen slightly as she processes the same realization, her earlier nervousness deepening into something closer to fear. And Christine watches it all unfold with a steady gaze, while Janelle sits back now, her expression no longer searching for answers, but bracing for what comes next. And Mary lowers her eyes briefly, as if absorbing the full weight of everything that has just been revealed, and as the judge prepares to address the new development, the tension in the room reaches a new level. Sharper, heavier, more uncertain than before, because this isn't just about what happened anymore, it's about what it means moving forward, what consequences might follow, what truths are still waiting to come out, and just. As it seems like the moment couldn't become any more intense, the judge speaks, her voice firm and deliberate as she asks a question that no one in that room is truly ready to answer, a question that cuts straight to the core of everything that's been revealed, and as all eyes turn back to Kody. Waiting, watching, the weight of that question hangs in the air like a storm about to break, because what he says next won't just defend his past, it could determine his future in ways none of them can predict. The courtroom feels like it's closing in even tighter now, every eye locked on Kody as he struggles to maintain a semblance of composure while the reality of what's been revealed begins to settle in, and Janelle sits forward slightly, her eyes unwavering, tracing every twitch of his expression as if she can read his thoughts directly from his face, while Christine leans back in her chair, arms crossed, the corners of her mouth just barely twitching in a mixture of disbelief and satisfaction, and Robyn sits frozen, hands clasped tightly in her lap, her breathing uneven as she begins to fully grasp the implications of the document that has now shifted the entire narrative. And the judge clears her throat, her voice cutting through the tension like a sharp blade, commanding attention, reminding everyone that order and decorum must be maintained even as the emotional stakes skyrocket, and the attorney moves deliberately, pacing slightly as he prepares the next line of questioning, eyes flicking from Kody to Janelle to Christine, and finally resting on Robyn for just a moment before he begins. His tone calm but heavy with intent, asking Kody to explain in detail the rationale behind prioritizing certain financial distributions over others, and Kody exhales. Sharply, leaning back in his chair, the weight of the room pressing down on him, trying to find words that will protect him, trying to salvage credibility, but even as he speaks, there's a tremor in his voice that betrays the doubt gnawing at him, and Janelle interrupts almost immediately. Her tone-cutting, pointed, demanding clarity, insisting that if it was truly about family, there should have been transparency, there should have been consultation, there should have been an equal voice, and with each word, the courtroom seems to grow hotter, heavier, charged with a mix of anger, disappointment, and anticipation as the other wives shift in their seats, Robyn's eyes darting to Kody with unspoken questions, Christine's lips pressed together tightly as she silently critiques every explanation. And Mary, usually quiet, now leans slightly forward, her hands folded but her gaze razor sharp, clearly weighing every nuance of the exchanges, every hesitation, every half-truth, as though she's calculating exactly what each moment will mean for the unfolding family dynamic, and the attorney doesn't pause, pressing forward, asking for specifics, the dates funds were transferred. the communications that occurred or were deliberately withheld, and the consequences these actions had on the other households, and Kody stumbles slightly, fumbling with papers, adjusting his tie, realizing that the more he tries to assert control, the more fragile his position becomes. While Janelle's eyes narrow, her jaw tightening as she listens, each word from him like a new piece of evidence confirming what she has felt for years, and Christine leans in now, her voice low but audible, making an almost sarcastic comment about how transparency clearly wasn't part of the plan. And the courtroom reacts subtly, the shift in energy palpable, the tension thickening as every person present processes the enormity of what's unfolding, and Robyn's breathing quickens, her lips parting slightly as she attempts to reconcile her trust in Kody with the undeniable facts now laid bare. Before her, and the attorney pauses for a moment, letting the weight of the testimony hang in the air, then continues, bringing out emails, texts, and signed notes that trace the sequence of decisions, highlighting not just the financial favoritism, but the emotional impact it had on Janelle and Christine. And as each piece is presented, Kody's defenses begin to crumble subtly, his once confident explanations now punctuated with hesitations, his eyes darting toward Robyn almost involuntarily, as if searching for reassurance he knows won't come, and the room feels electric with anticipation, everyone leaning forward slightly, sensing that this isn't just a dispute about money, it's a confrontation about trust, loyalty, and the emotional fabric of a family stretched thin over years of secrets. And Janelle finally speaks again, her voice steady but laden with emotion, recounting personal sacrifices she made, moments she went without so that the family could appear united, and contrasting them with the decisions made quietly in favor of others, her words landing hard, not just in the courtroom but in the hearts of everyone listening. And Kody opens his mouth to respond, to defend, but the words falter, the weight of proof now too heavy to counter with mere reasoning, and Robyn shifts in her seat, visibly distressed, as if she's caught between loyalty to Kody and the undeniable truth revealed in front of everyone, while Christine's eyes glint with a mixture of anger and vindication, her posture rigid, arms crossed tightly as she watches Kody squirm under the relentless scrutiny, and the judge leans forward slightly, fingers interlaced, giving a silent signal to proceed, knowing that the unfolding testimony is critical to understanding the full scope of the case, and the attorney presses on, bringing up long-standing grievances, highlighting patterns of exclusion, inconsistencies in Kody's explanations, and moments where promises made to Janelle and Christine were broken without apology or acknowledgement, and with each revelation. The tension crescendos, the emotional stakes rising, the courtroom no longer just a space for legal arguments, but a stage for raw human emotion, and Kody's face grows taut, his hands gripping the armrests as he feels the walls of control he once maintained collapsing around him, while Janelle leans back slightly, a sense of vindication mixed with sadness washing over her features as she realizes that the truth is finally coming to light, and Mary's eyes remain fixed, unwavering, as if absorbing the full magnitude of the unfolding drama, every syllable, every expression, every pause. And then the attorney shifts focus to Robyn, asking about her understanding and involvement, about her awareness of the advantages she received, and she responds, voice shaking slightly, admitting she trusted Kody, that she never intended harm, that she didn't fully grasp the implications at the time, and the admission adds a new layer of tension, because it paints a picture of complicity by ignorance, and the courtroom feels the weight of this dynamic, the intricate web of trust, betrayal, and intention now fully exposed, while Christine comments quietly to herself, shaking her head, noting that ignorance may explain actions but doesn't absolve responsibility, and the judge signals to continue, allowing the attorney to proceed with the final, most damning pieces, documents showing allocation of funds, communication logs contradicting prior testimony, and notes that explicitly detailed decisions made without consulting all households, and as each document is laid out, Kody's composure falters more noticeably, his brow furrowing, his jaw tightening, and he shifts uncomfortably, realizing the courtroom is now not only aware, but convinced of a pattern that undermines his. Credibility, while Janelle's posture straightens, a mixture of relief and lingering hurt playing across her features, knowing that, at last, the reality of what happened is undeniable, and Robyn's lips pressed together tightly, clearly torn between defending Kody and acknowledging the weight of what's been revealed, and Christine's gaze sharpens, her eyes tracking every subtle movement, every flicker of expression, while Mary remains the quiet observer, her body still, but her mind clearly processing, analyzing, and filing away every new piece of information, and the attorney concludes this segment by emphasizing the emotional and financial imbalance, the pattern of exclusion, and the impact these actions have had on the family dynamic over years. And the finality of his statement resonates across the room, silencing murmurs, sharpening focus, and leaving Kody with a rare and vulnerable expression of defeat. And as the courtroom absorbs this, the judge leans forward, giving a deliberate, measured statement, signaling that the testimony will continue, that the repercussions of what has been revealed are far from over, and the atmosphere grows even more tense, charged with anticipation, as everyone senses that the coming moments will push the family and the case into even more unpredictable territory, because nothing in this courtroom has ever been just about facts. It's about unraveling the very bonds that held them together. The tension in the courtroom is nearly suffocating now, every heartbeat echoing in the otherwise hushed room as Kody sits rigidly in his chair, fingers intertwined, jaw tight, trying to marshal some control over a situation that is clearly slipping from his grasp. And Janelle leans forward slightly, her eyes unwavering, every movement precise as she watches him, absorbing every hesitation, every flicker of doubt across his face, while Christine sits back, arms crossed, a thin smirk playing at the corners of her lips as if she's been waiting for this exact moment for years, and Robyn, seated between them, looks down at her hands, nervously twisting a ring around her finger, clearly struggling with a mixture of guilt, fear, and the dawning realization that the walls of secrecy are finally crumbling. And the judge, noticing the intensity in the room, adjusts her glasses and clears her throat, her voice firm and commanding attention, reminding everyone that while emotions run high, decorum must be maintained, and the attorney rises again, pacing slowly with deliberate steps, his eyes flicking to each family member in turn before focusing back on Kody. His voice calm, but weighted with purpose as he begins questioning Kody about specific incidents where financial decisions were made without full disclosure to the other wives, and Kody responds quickly at first, defensive, insisting that all decisions were for the good of the family, for stability, but as the attorney presents emails, texts, and bank statements showing unilateral actions that favored Robyn's household, Kody's responses become more fragmented, more hesitant, betraying cracks in his narrative, and Janelle leans forward now, her voice cutting through the tense air as she recounts personal sacrifices she made, times she forewent, opportunities or stability because she trusted Kody to make decisions in everyone's best interest. And the courtroom feels the weight of her words, the gravity of her lived experience as the attorney presses further, highlighting how those sacrifices directly intersected with actions that disadvantaged her household, and Christine shakes her head subtly, her expression a mixture of frustration and vindication, her posture rigid, as she silently critiques every excuse, every incomplete justification Kody offers, and Robyn shifts uncomfortably in her seat, her lips pressed tightly. Together, a clear sign that the truth is beginning to sink in for her as well, as the implications of the document and testimony extend beyond financial imbalance into emotional betrayal, while Mary, who has remained quietly observing, finally leans slightly forward, eyes focused, clearly processing the full extent of the revelations and how they alter the perception of Kody's leadership and fairness, and the attorney then brings up a particularly damning point. a series of decisions regarding renovations and allocations of property that were documented and signed by Kody and Robyn. Alone, bypassing the agreed-upon family consultation process, and the air in the courtroom seems to shift, heavier now, as if everyone collectively realizes that this pattern is systematic, deliberate, and cannot be brushed aside as a minor oversight, and Kody exhales slowly, running a hand through his hair, his voice faltering slightly as he insists that these decisions were temporary measures necessary during a complicated period, yet the evidence laid bare leaves little room for interpretation, and Janelle's eyes harden, her voice steady but loaded with emotion as she challenges him, asking how temporary measures became permanent advantages and why she and Christine were left to pick up the pieces without explanation, and the murmurs in the room rise subtly, tension palpable, as even the spectators sense that this isn't merely a family disagreement, but a breach of trust. A fracture in what was supposed to be an equitable partnership, and Robyn swallows hard, finally speaking, her voice quiet but urgent, admitting she trusted Kody's decisions, that she did not intend harm, that she believed she was acting in the best interest of the family, yet the statement only complicates matters, highlighting the moral and emotional conflict that runs through the entire household, while Christine tilts her head, voice low but pointed, remarking that blind trust, while understandable, cannot excuse the tangible inequities that have now been documented, and the judge leans forward slightly, signaling that the gravity of the testimony is not lost on her, and allowing the attorney to continue, who now shifts focus toward the long-term emotional effects, asking Janelle to recount specific moments where she felt excluded, unheard, and undermined. Moments that compounded over years and now emerge as clear evidence of neglect and partiality, and as Janelle recounts these experiences, describing sleepless nights, anxious days, and a growing sense of invisibility within the family unit, the courtroom absorbs each word, the tension intensifying as Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat, each anecdote chipping away at his narrative of fairness and impartial leadership, and Robyn's hands tighten in her lap, her eyes flicking nervously between Kody and Janelle, the reality of the situation settling in with increasing weight while Christine leans slightly forward, nodding subtly, her expression one of validation and restrained anger as she senses that the unraveling is approaching its emotional peak, and the attorney then introduces another piece of evidence, this one a set of text messages exchanged during critical decision-making. Periods. Messages that reveal discussions between Kody and Robyn that explicitly exclude the other wives, and the words hang in the air like a storm ready to break, and Kody swallows hard, his lips pressed tightly together, eyes narrowing as he struggles to maintain composure. But the evidence is irrefutable, and Janelle leans forward now, voice steady but piercing, directly questioning the intent behind those messages, demanding to know why he felt entitled to act without collective consent, why trust was violated so blatantly, and the courtroom feels electric, charged with anticipation. As Kody opens his mouth to respond, fumbling briefly before offering vague explanations about urgency and family protection, explanations that sound increasingly hollow in the face of concrete evidence, and Robyn glances downward, her lips pursed, clearly uncomfortable with the attention and implications, while Christine's gaze sharpens, silently demanding accountability, and the judge waits patiently, allowing the attorney to press further, who now asks for clarifications regarding financial oversight, control of property, and the apparent favoritism shown, each question like another layer peeled back to reveal the vulnerability of Kody's position, and Kody shifts again, voice quieter, more defensive, explaining intentions, yet the pattern is now clear to everyone. The emotional and financial disparities laid bare, undeniable, and Janelle's voice rises slightly, measured but emotional, recounting how promises of shared responsibility and equitable treatment were broken repeatedly, and how the weight of those broken promises affected her daily life, her sense of stability, and her trust in the family, while Christine leans in now, commenting softly but sharply on how The pattern reveals not just poor judgment, but a deeper disregard for fairness. And Robyn finally looks up, eyes wide, voice trembling slightly as she admits she wishes she had questioned more, that she didn't realize the consequences of her reliance on Kody's decisions, and the courtroom hangs on. Her words, the mix of guilt, fear, and truth thick in the air, while the judge observes silently, letting the emotional gravity of the testimony resonate before the attorney pivots again, bringing out yet more evidence of unilateral decisions that directly benefited Robyn's household, documents, and records that leave little room for dispute, each piece reinforcing the narrative of exclusion and favoritism. And as Kody's face tightens, his attempts at justification faltering, the energy in the room crescendos, and Janelle's voice rings out again, firm and unwavering, asking how trust can be restored after repeated deception, how fairness can be rebuilt when decisions were so clearly one-sided. While Christine silently observes, Robyn's shoulders tense and Mary's gaze remains steady, her eyes locked on Kody as if calculating the repercussions, and the attorney leans forward, delivering one final, damning observation about patterns of decision-making, emotional impact, and the breach of trust, and the words reverberate through the courtroom, leaving Kody visibly shaken, Robyn contemplative, Janelle resolute, Christine vindicated, and Mary thoughtful as everyone collectively recognizes that the story unfolding is no longer just about financial disputes. It's about the unraveling of familial bonds, the exposure of long-held secrets, and the inevitable reckoning that must follow. And as the session draws to a close, the judge signals for a brief recess. But the weight of the revelations lingers in the air, the emotional turbulence palpable, and every person in that room knows that the next phase will only deepen the conflict, intensify the confrontations, and push the family and Kody closer to a breaking point. Because in this courtroom, the truth is no longer a choice, it is an unstoppable force that will change everything.